Right, hi guys, my name is Tatenda and I'm the Client Services Director at YouthSight Research, and I'm joined by Josephine, who's our Head of Brand Research. Hello. So today we're going to be talking to you guys about doing things differently, and specifically how you can do research differently. So, because we practice what we preach, I'm not going to be showing you any charts and slides and really boring data. I'm going to be talking to you guys about how we can use bright young minds and skilled consumers to bring injection of inspiration to your brand. However, if you do want any facts and figures, come speak to me after the presentation, and we have a fact file which has really interesting information about the youth and student market. All right. So, as a research agency, we actually operate in quite a unique space. At one end, we try and understand how consumers behave. And at the other end of the spectrum, we try and turn these insights into useful information that our clients can actually make better decisions. So for us as a youth research agency, it's been really, really interesting to kind of see the change of how young people 10 years ago when we started doing things are different to young people today. And at the same time, seeing how our clients have changed and how their world is quite different. So you guys have heard the discourse on millennials, which was talked about before, but for us it's really insightful to actually see those changes happening. So we all know, we've talked about it, about young people being digitally creative, being digital natives, more connected than ever. But for us, the interesting point is that we can see this and actually tell our clients that they can actually change what they do based on what's going on in the real world. Turning to our clients, it's quite interesting as well because marketing is much different than it was before. So we all know that marketing is much more integrated. So it's easier than ever before for a brand, a marketing manager to allocate resources, start a campaign, and in turn, check the insights and see whether that campaign is going well or not. The internet has changed the game from everyone. Marketing has gone from being about content to being about context. So, as marketers, we have to be much quicker, we have to be more reactive, and we also have to be more contextual and relevant. So I've talked about the internet and technology, but this is really happening largely because consumers today are more empowered. They have more information, they know much more about products and services, and the paradigm has shifted quite a bit. So whether you are King's College, University of London, using current news affairs to drive people to actually start a new course, such as Causes of War course, which I've never heard of before, but seems quite interesting. Or your Bet365 using live odds at halftime to actually get people to go online and start betting. The game has changed for every one of us. So what does that mean for us as a research agency? Well, that means that we have to be much quicker than we were before. So I'm going to give you a little example. As you guys know, with the budget, it's a really interesting topic for the public, and there's loads of stakeholders that actually want to find out what public opinion is. For us as a research agency, this is really interesting because last week we got commissioned a project, and we were able to actually get 500 young people in the space of 3 hours to give their feedback on what they thought about the budget. And in turn, the next morning, those insights fed into the news agenda. So as you can see, it's not just about marketing changing, it's also about insight and insight changing as well. We all have to be quicker. So, this basically means that for brands, it's much harder than ever to be seen and heard. You have harder cut through, and it's much more important that you actually are different to everyone else. 10 years ago, where you may have been competing with other competitors and other brands that you work with, or work against, today you not only compete against other brands, you compete against consumers as well. It's never been easier for you guys to go online, start a marketing viral campaign, and it's spread around the internet like wildfire. At the same time, it's never been easier for you to do makeup at home, like Patricia, and end up getting 383,000 followers and about 167,000 people watching your videos online all the time. Funnily enough, I know Patricia. I went to uni with her. What's really interesting is that she didn't start out doing this. She's actually works in management consultancy, but this has gone on to actually become huge on the internet. And probably the most important point is she's going to hate the fact I used that photo. So if anyone knows her, please don't tell her. So this is another example of what's going on today. So I'm sure you guys know about the No Makeup Selfie campaign. It's been doing the rounds the last few weeks. And the basic notion of it is that if you are a girl or a woman and you want to raise awareness about cancer research, you can nominate someone to take a selfie without any makeup, and then there's a donation that gets given to them. So this has raised about £8 million in the last few weeks, and it kind of raises the point that at the end of the day, young people are actually driving change in the world that we see. And this was actually a campaign that wasn't actually started by Cancer Research UK. It was actually started by someone called Fiona, at the top of my head, because I did the research last night, because I'm a researcher. And she's 18 years old. And this just shows that young people, for you guys as brands, can actually start changing the narrative. They can actually control the content that goes out there. They can be irreverent to a brand, and they can be agents of creative change. So as you guys know, the paradigm has changed. As brands, you guys do not control the narrative anymore. Instead, you can't go out and tell people, please buy my product, Mr. Consumer. That's not going to work. The things are much different than they were before. You have to get much more cut through and be much more effective in the messages and the branding that you're talking about. So for us, as market researchers and what we've seen in the last few years, it's really down to three main points. You have to be creative, you have to be irreverent, and you also have to be unique and authentic in what you do. So how will we actually manage this? Well, luckily for us, we have a great base to start off with. We actually own and manage the UK's largest research community. It comprises of 124,000 16 to 30-year-olds from around the UK, and it covers people in university, not university, in a job. It's just anyone that's young and wants to actually give their opinion and debate. What's really cool about this is that the content is all user-generated. So the community members themselves upload articles, videos about anything from Miley Cyrus and twerking, all the way to the repugnant culture of the uni lads. What's interesting is I was a uni lad. I don't think I'm repugnant, but I don't know, you guys might feel that they are. As you can see, we got about 31,000 views from this, and this was all internally in our own community website. It wasn't outside on Instagram or on BuzzFeed or any of these sites. So this kind of tells you how we've had to change. And now I'm going to introduce Josephine, who's going to talk about these ideas of creativity, authenticity, and irreverence, and how that works for us in Bright Young Minds.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tatenda. And yes, I'm Josephine. I work for YouthSight, and I head up the Bright Young Minds proposition that looks into injecting creativity, irreverence, and authenticity to the brands that you work with. It's called Bright Young Minds. So to kind of frame the issue that I want to talk about today, I was trying to think about what might be troubling you when you're sitting down trying to devise your next marketing strategy. So from what Tatenda said, I understand that maybe you're not necessarily in control of the brands as you used to be. You're not necessarily the brand owners. Young people no longer idolize brands like they used to. The sell-tell era is dead. So as a humble researcher, I can only just really guess what's going through your minds at the moment when you're doing your everyday job. I guess you probably need more coffee. I also imagine that you probably need more knowledge, data, insight into the youth market to be able to make your decisions. But I also imagine you're thinking about the risks you might need to take that next step. If you were to ask me, I'd probably say you need to do things differently. So here's a really good quote from Matt from Vice magazine. So, once you give a creative agency a brief that didn't come from an authentic place, you're screwed before you started. And really, this is underpinning everything that we really stand for at Bright Young Minds. Our main aim is to avoid this happening to you and your brand. So we're here to help, to let you work with talented young people, to make your work more relevant and authentic. So YouthSight is YouthSight manages the Bright Young Minds proposition, and Bright Young Minds is a youth co-creation offer. We really want to help you do things differently. Last year, we worked with brands like Puma, Macmillan, Blinkbox, Legal & General, to really integrate young people into the creative process and inspire novel and irreverent thinking. But do you really know what co-creation is? I guess, quickly, to summarize, it's bringing young people, it's bringing consumers into your creative process to inspire new thinking, to think about campaigns, services, and new products. So co-creation isn't new. It's about 10 years old, just like YouthSight. And over the last decade, we've really helped brands to really think about what they should be doing next. But what we've also found is that co-creation and the traditional approaches that other agencies use no longer necessarily deliver on what they promise. So co-creation can work really well for brands, working well for clients who really want to find out what's new. But at the end of the day, the consumer may suffer. Hoovering up new ideas from around the internet and through research methodologies, maybe coming up with the next big thing in exchange for an Amazon voucher. It doesn't really work. And if you think about it in another way, it could also work really well for consumers. co-creation really has a theatre around it. It gives people sort of the sense that they are creative, that they can do anything that they want. But ultimately, taking them into a co-creation process, that might not actually translate to results. Not everyone is creative. Bright Young Minds is a fresh approach that believes that we need to redesign this relationship. So co-creation takes time, it takes money, and ultimately it needs to deliver something new. So what we've done is we've streamlined the process. We want it to be faster and we want it to be more effective. So we've developed an approach that really answers 3 key questions. Firstly, we want to bring young people into the creative process to inspire novel thinking. We want to test your ideas, stress test them to maximize cut-through. And we want to help you verify your right to play in the youth arena. So by focusing on these 3 outcomes, hopefully the co-creation process will deliver what you want. But what's maybe more interesting in the way that we do this is that we don't subscribe to the idea that everyone is creative. So we've worked with academics at Nottingham University to devise a psychometric test, which was later verified by LSE. So this is really a segmentation test, which we do every day in our normal research lives. But this really identifies 5 key skills that you need to be able to deliver a good co-creation project. So this test is then put to our opinion panel community. So as Tatenda said, that's 124,000 young people ready to do research with us. So if we put our test to 124,000 young people, we then identify those who are best able to help you with your co-creation questions. So this means we can work with talented young people and use our process to give you new and novel ideas. So Bright Young Minds is about efficacy. It's using the young people at the right time with the right skills. It sounds sensible, and I guess it is. You wouldn't employ someone in your organization without checking that the requirements of the role match the skills of that person. And I guess we're just using that rule in market research. So here are our team. The creatives, the market mavens, the social challengers, the connecteds, and the curious minds. So the connecteds, they're really social. We know all about them. They're online more. They're listened to more. They like technology. And so far as their connections, they go much further than anyone else in their social world. So we use them to understand how messages can be disseminated and how technology can be used. Market mavens. So they're like market experts. They know all about brands and the categories that interest them, whether that's music, whether that's television, whether that's fashion. They're twice as likely to introduce a new product or brand to a friend, and that's why we like to work with them. We find that they're great when we're working with brand positioning or new product development. Social challenges. So they read the news. Well done, young people. They're up on current affairs. But they like to challenge the status quo, and this is a really interesting point here on how we like to use them. We want to use them to challenge what you're putting towards them, to stress test ideas that you have, and they're really great in helping with communication development. The curious minds, they're open-minded and have a combination of analytical and inquisitive traits. They're great for honest feedback. So they're twice as likely to like learning something as other people in their social group, and they're also great with new product development and concept testing. But then finally, 8% of the youth are creative. They're young, they're free thinkers, and they're able to generate a wide range of novel ideas, solutions for your brand. So they're twice as likely to have already won a prize for doing something creative, to have produced something creative. And so they're perfect for ideation projects, new product development, and looking to the future in an analytical way. So this is our team. What do we do with them? So we've already mentioned, we really want to look at irreverence, creativity, and authenticity. And how do we match that into our methods? So I guess we want to inspire new thinking. And how do we do that? Well, normal co-creation methods is the starting point. but we put the brief to our creatives, to our curious minds, and to our social challengers. So you can imagine, we're really just honing in on those people that will really help you come up with the novel, divergent thinking that you need. Then, by asking them to share their ideas, we then put that into an online community which is iterated and then tested in the future. Then we hack. So this is a really interesting concept because what we're wanting to do here is really stress test your ideas. We're not trying to see if they pass a test that should go forward. We're trying to unpick them, to explode them, to see what could happen when you launch your campaign. And we do this with the most irreverent thinkers on our community. So we use the social challengers, the curious minds, and the connecteds to really see what could happen. The hackathon sessions are an extreme playground, either online or offline, depending on what we do with clients. And it really helps bring out what the future could be to limit the risk that you could be taking. And thirdly, we want to validate. So yes, this is looking at your idea, putting it to the youth market and seeing what they think of your idea. But this is not just a concept test. This is really just a mega concept test with all of our Bright Young Minds community. So this is really going to the leading thinkers of youth today and seeing what they think about your campaign. To give you an example, having given you all the theory, I'd like to talk about how we helped Proximity develop a new campaign for student TV licensing. So Proximity have worked with YouthSight and Bright Young Minds for a number of years now. They're a fantastic agency, and last year they were asked to really rejuvenate the student TV licensing campaign. Well, as you can imagine, students aren't the best at paying their TV license. I don't know if you were like that as well. You don't necessarily think it's relevant to you. And so they really wanted to come up with something different. So for us, this was an ideal time to suggest if they want something different, they need to do something different. And so we used the Bright Young Minds methodology. So what did we do? So we got the brief. So we got the brief and we put it out to 1,000 of our Bright Young Mind community. Now that came back with 250 unique ideas for the next campaign. So then we're like, right, we've got 250 ideas. Let's put that into the community. Let's hack it and iterate it and see what happens. So we did. So for 3 weeks, we were working with our Bright Young Minds to see what would come out. And we found 6 key creative territories at the end. Once we looked at those, we worked with key stakeholders at TV licensing and Proximity to come up with 3 core ideas that were outcomes of a creative workshop. And here it is. Now, I'm not here today to necessarily talk you through all the creative processes and tell you what's here, but I guess what I am here to say is this is definitely a different output of what you'd expect from a TV licensing campaign to students. It captures the playfulness of youth. There's a unicorn. Also, it really captures the voice of the student, telling them that 40p a day really isn't that big a deal. It's actually quite good value, especially when you compare it to £714 to travel back in time. But what was really different here isn't the ads, it's actually the process we went through with Proximity to come up with this. It's enabling creative professionals to work with our talented young people on our panel to really come up with something divergent and something novel. So this campaign is one of many that we have delivered as YouthSight and as Bright Young Minds. But campaign development is just one of the things that we do. So yes, campaign development, but new product design, new service design. Our end-to-end process, so the inspire, create, and hack, innovate, that's something that we do day to day, but more often than not, we mix and match the 3 elements of our methodology. So you could inspire and hack. So this is coming up with new ideas and then stress testing them to come up with ideas and see if they'll break. To hack ideas and then validate them. So this is really seeing if your ideas you already have legs for the future. So retrofitting old ideas to see if they're still relevant. And thirdly, to inspire and validate. So this is more or less a co-creation offer that other agencies would have, but it's testing your ideas to think they'll fly with the Bright Young Minds community. So I guess that's me. I've told you everything that we do. I'll just now hand back to Tatenda, who will just sum everything up for you.
Thank you. Right, so as I said, the telcell's dead and we can't market in the same way. So I'm going to tell you to ignore this screen of the great clients we've worked with, and I'm not going to talk about the life-changing and interesting projects we've done. All I'm going to say to you guys is come and meet me after conference. We can chat to Josephine or us, and we can talk to you a bit more about what we do, whether it's recruitment for qualitative groups, all the way to full-service insight and research. Thanks very much.